Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Cultured Nerd Podcast. This week we are talking pretty much all about DC Comics right now. So Superman has been doing its outdoor filming in Cleveland yesterday and today. And with that, we got some firsthand looks at a lot of cool things. Right off the bat, we saw Mr. Terrific and Superman doing something, and the military is involved, and Mr. Terrific's T-ship is picking people up, and it definitely seems like there's a big battle happening. And for a story where we still don't know who the villain is, it's got to be really intriguing for fans. But we had a lot of set photos, a lot of stuff came out, a lot of controversy among a certain demographic of DC fans. And we're going to talk about everything in between, but let's just stop rambling. Let's just get right to it. I was like this close to changing the intro song to the John Williams Superman theme just to get the mood going.
I thought
we could get in trouble, couldn't we?
I thought you should have made it the Drew Carey show. Cleveland rocks.
That would
Cleveland rocks.
But it's more of a deep cut for people who are not in our generation who didn't watch that show a lot.
Ohio.
Yeah, I loved that show. That was a great show.
Very deep cut. So I'm excited for you to tell me the genesis of all this. Can I just say though that anytime I see these superhero costumes in regular sunlight, they always look silly to me. You need the movie magic to make these things feel special because those just look like dudes in very hot outfits.
Yeah, 100%. And so they're outdoors right now. They're filming Superman in the public. They're just straight out. They knew this was going to happen, but mind you, this is the final stretch of filming. They went through almost filming 80% of the film without anyone seeing anything, and they already took their break. Now they're going back to filming, and they're like, "Oh, guess what? It's might as well. Let's just have this happening."
This is all probably beginning and middle of the story. There's no way we're going to see an ending fight happening outside, correct?
Ironically, so this is one of the funny things that I think a lot of people don't realize about filming, and we've talked about this before. When a film actually goes out and starts filming something, they film it in the path of least resistance. So what they do is they go through the script and then they organize what is the easiest way we can film this film with cast availability and just staging it. And they're it's 9 times out of 10, it's impossible to film a film in chronological order. So it doesn't happen. So what we're probably seeing here is even though this is the last few weeks of filming, this could be act 1 or 2 right at the beginning of the film. But again, we don't know because we saw a bunch of stuff that was filmed up in the mountains of Iceland. We saw a bunch of Fortress Solitude stuff. We know that they filmed a butt ton of stuff on a soundstage that they built up a bunch of stuff. So we saw maybe one shot of the engineer, or rather the gal playing the engineer, doing something with her arms, which is going to be CGI'd, and she's going to be metalloed up, and it's going to be gnarly.
It always looks silly. Have you seen the CW Flash without before they put it on? Yeah, all the final effects. It's I guarantee you, there's some footage of that person wiggling their arms around. Something cool eventually happened.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff that happened, and so this is what came out yesterday. We're going to talk about this first.
Superman's costume looks good. That I like. Yeah. It looks spaceman-y. It looks. I just seeing it from afar here and seeing it in the light of day, Taylor. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. It looks great.
So, I like the suit. I have some gripes. Obviously, the main gripe right here is that the suit it's not form fitting. It looks like a uniform, right?
Yeah, he's an alien man.
Yeah, so the suit came out. The coloring is great. The design is pretty solid. I don't really love the collar, but I get it.
I like the collar.
Huh?
I like the collar.
I think it's weird to me, honestly. It's I don't know. It's just but I would prefer the traditional Superman where it comes out a little bit further to his collarbone, and that would be fine to me. But we saw, obviously in the bottom corner there, we saw Superman and Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific just looks absolutely fantastic. That's a win for me.
He looks exactly like the character. They didn't change the T on his face. Like, they just kept everything there. And the fact that that's all makeup, it makes it look that much better.
Yeah, and the fair play and the terrific on the jacket. Like, I was worried about, how do you pronounce his name? Is it Edie Gethege? He's 45. I mean, he's an older member of the cast. But he is known to be somewhat of a skinny guy. And I was worried that they were going to get someone supposed to be Mr. Terrific, one of the smartest guys of DC and the physically empowering guy. And then they showed behind the scenes shots of him just getting hella jacked up. And I was like, okay, maybe he's got to pull this off. Seeing the final look, I'm sold.
It's crazy that they made him work out. I don't see any muscles on him. I see a giant jacket. Do we see his muscles? Is he known for not wearing the jacket?
I'm willing to bet at some point he's going to drop the jacket and it's going to be that sleeveless top that he wears in the comics. And you're just going to see his guns and he's just going to just beat the crap out of something. So there's no reason why they would make him work out for that long just to have him under a coat.
He has probably swirling magic technology balls all around him, but those will be
and that actually comes up in a second. So
okay.
The other photos, we got a first look at Lois Lane, and this shot in particular, I dig it. Like, obviously Superman and Lois Lane meeting in public. I love the fact that the costume department for Lois Lane decided to go full on Superman comic / animated series and have most of her outfit being dark tones with purple. Like, that's a huge like throwback to, this is Lois Lane from the cartoons and early comics. Like, this is the coloring that they always stuck with her. Amazing. There was a lot of people.
Whatever this event is that's happening in the movie, clearly we have the local response team, but also the military is involved. So this isn't an everyday occurrence sort of deal.
Right. And this was actually something that a lot of people are like, oh, Superman set in the 60s or 70s. I don't get it. And then I show you this photo, modern day firefighters, modern day military.
Yeah. That military guy looks like he could be in any Iraq movie in the last 20 years. This all looks modern.
Yeah, not even 20 years, more recently than that. Some of the headgear on him is like, that's new. This is like, yeah, that's new stuff. So with that, we also got this shot of Lois Lane getting out of Mr. Terrific's T-ship along with Perry White.
Did Mr. T save them from something? Did he bring them there to see something? This looks like they're
some crap happened and they're getting out of it. Yeah,
like their airplane exploded, their helicopter, and he saved them.
So this was all from the first day. So the first day we saw a bunch of Superman, a bunch of Mr. Terrific, some military, and we saw the T-ship, right? And then today comes along, and we get a first look at Clark Kent. And this to me is one of the best. A lot of people were like, oh, he looks like a modern day TikToker. He looks like Bad Bunny, blah, blah, blah. Like, my thought was, this is the first time where Clark Kent doesn't look like Superman wearing glasses. Like, I see this and I'm like, that doesn't look like the same dude.
Yeah, that looks like a guy who's trying to not look like the dude on the right.
Yeah, like it legitimately looks like this is going to be more of the comic book, deep cut comic book take where in the 90s, the 80s and 90s, Superman legitimately did have curly hair. It wasn't some like straight shot hair. So like you can see on the right where Superman has his hair slicked back, but the curls are still there.
Can Kryptonians control their curls?
Probably not.
So he's doing this with product, or do you think he like runs really fast to mess up his hair for the morning time?
My guess is that just like most people, you can do your hair with water and letting it set correctly with the right amount of heat. My guess is that Superman, there's no product on the planet that can fix Superman's hair, so he has to do this manually every day of his life.
Yeah, like we're gonna see a scene where he like moves ultra fast and like messes up his hair to look like that guy.
100%. But at the same time, you can also argue that like, because he is Superman, the elements don't really affect him, so he doesn't need product. He just needs to comb his hair once, and he's good.
This is obviously an action shot, but he kind of looks like he's hunched over, like he's not the confident Superman.
Possibly. There was a couple other shots where he was actually doing the Superman stuff, and I saw a couple behind the scenes video of him talking to Mr. Mr. Terrific, and some of the shots were just, they screamed Superman. Like one shot, he like stood up and like did his arms, then he like folded his arms and his cape was flowing. I'm like, they're nailing this. There's also a lot of this Superman smiling. So everyone who bitched that Henry Cavill didn't smile, David smiles a lot, but also he's doing some Superman stuff.
He was wearing a purple tie. Do you think that was to match with Lois Lane and her everyday outfits, if you will?
That's my guess, is that he's trying to like be the good boyfriend and be like, hey,
yo, do you think we see them? Do you think they're like
a couple?
What?
100%.
Do you think? Let me ask this then. Do you think they're a month into the relationship, or do you think or do you think we will see the reveal of him being Superman to her in the movie?
I think it's going to be already established that she knows, and it's going to be like some of the better stories of Superman is when he's already outed himself to her, and it's just like she's in on the secret, and it works better that way.
I agree. I think that the sneaky around Superman is fun, but I think we've already done that on film. I feel like Christopher Reeves did that.
Especially with what James Gunn said about this film being not a year 1 or year 2 story. Superman's a little bit seasoned, but he's not like, it's like under 3 years, but more than 2, somewhere in that range.
I wonder if we get any Family Guy stuff where she's like, yeah, well, thank goodness this wasn't like the cat incident. Cut to Superman drops a cat off a building and has to catch it or something.
No, I hope not. That would be just ridiculous. But along with today, we got the Superman and Clark Kent stuff. We got the rest of the Daily Planet getting picked up by the T-ship, which led me to believe that the situation with the T-ship, whatever's happening in Metropolis, the whole wing of the news floor was being attacked or destroyed, and Mr. Terrific had to go catch everybody. So starting from the top.
I'm not good with names of actors. I'm going to let you know, though, those bottom guys, these are all comedy people. These are people that are funny and in the moment and present. Young kid's very funny. That guy's been the guy to his left. That guy is always a silly guy. And I love the guy from The Wire.
So we've got Wendell Pierce as Perry White, obviously. We've got Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen. And this is the first time Jimmy Olsen has been portrayed on film where he doesn't have a dorky bow tie and looks like he's in the 20s.
Yeah, but he's got this. I love his weird Letterman jacket. Like, he obviously didn't play. He wasn't a jock in school, but now he's a reporter, so he gets to wear, like, he gets a big jacket.
Yeah, and we got Beck Bennett of Saturday Night Live playing Steve Lombard. That's the Mr. Mustache in the bottom corner. So Steve Lombard is the news and the sports correspondent. He is the jock. He is the guy who's always like, "Hey Lois, let's go to the game. Let's do this." Or he's always teasing Clark Kent. In the comics, Steve Lombard is always going up to Clark and saying, "If you just work out a little bit, the girls would love you." Like, he's always teasing his physique, which is great. We got Michaela Hoover in the top corner as Cat Grant. Michaela Hoover, for everyone who's seen anything of James Gunn's, she is a very frequent everything. She's Italian, she's Spanish, she's Iranian. She's blonde in this film, and it looks like she's playing very much one of those like those gals who are like, I'm trying to be younger than I am. I'm trying to be hip and stylish. And Cat Grant is the gossip columnist. She's the one that's
great.
Ridiculous. But
she's going to be on TikTok all day long in the movie.
Yeah, so she's been in everything James Gunn has done. She was the first Guardians of the Galaxy. She was in Suicide Squad. She's just been in a lot of things, and she's very randomly everywhere in his projects. And then lastly, we've got Christopher McDonald as Ron Trope. He's the top left. He is our guy, top right. I'm not sure how it's going to come up on your guys' screen. He is the guy with the glasses. He is another reporter. So you've got like the main correspondence wing there, along with Lois and Wendell Pierce's Perry White.
Guy in our top left corner, there's hands behind him, which are lady hands. Is that the lady's hands to his right, or do you think that is a different lady? Do you think
I'm assuming it's Cat's because because honestly, it just seems like I didn't know what order these pictures came out in because I didn't get a straight video. But from my understanding, the way they came out was Lois, Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, and then you had Ron, then you had Kat, and then you had Steve. And that's kind of the order they all came out in.
It's so funny as well. Like, we don't know what city. Like,
we do.
Well, no, I know we do, but I mean, we don't know where this is in the movie. Like,
Yeah.
did something happen on the way to Atlanta and this is where it happens? Or is this some outskirts of the city and Cleveland is part of the mega city that will be Metropolis?
So we do know that this is in Metropolis. This is
Right.
outside the Daily Planet headquarters because this is the same set that they just set up with. We know that something happened at the Daily Planet. We also got some shots of Eve Tessmacher, which is a character that was originally only in she was created for the Superman movie as Lex's gal, and we got her, and now let me see if I can pull up that photo of her because I got a photo of her.
Some of the best characters for these properties have been made up on the spot for new properties. I feel like the same thing is true of Harley Quinn, correct?
Harley was initially from the Batman animated show. They made it as they wanted a foil, just a new character, and then they got then they made Harley, and Harley blew up and became such a huge character that once they introduced her into the comics, it was like, holy crap! Now we have we got a new Joker light,
right?
So now we have also got Lex Luthor's girlfriend. Let me go ahead and pull her up here, and this. Eve Tessmacher is played by Sarah Sampaio. I know I'm butchering her name, but she is she's a model. She's Portuguese, and now she's blonde. So,
do you think that she is? Obviously, she's attractive arm candy. Do you think she does evil things too? Do you think we'll see her be like, oopsies, and she drops the car keys she drops whatever the thing Superman needs into the gutter?
Possibly. I think that this version of Eve is going to be a lot less of the just the arm candy that we had with the Gene Hackman version, and more of like a mixture between Eve Tessmacher and Mercy Graves. Like she's like Lex's assistant, but also has a gun and like is like ready to fight if she needs to.
Does she ever get powers?
No, but in one iteration of the character, we've seen Mercy Graves actually been a cyborg, where she's just like normal, and then like her arms split open, and there's like Trigun like style guns in her arms and stuff. Like I could very much see this version of Lex having modified his bodyguards. But we do know that this version of Lex, he runs Luthor Corp. We know that he is hella jacked. We know that this is the way they're going position. This is that not only is he the smartest man in the city, but he is at the physical peak of his prowess. Like he has actually gone out of his way to, like an all-star Superman, where he says, "Look, Clark, this is just pure muscle. This is what human will and determination can do. Not like Superman being born with a six-pack. I earned it." So that's the kind of Lex that we're going to get here.
I wonder if that's why Superman doesn't look as buff as the way you want him to, so that he kind of does look like a normal guy in a t-shirt, so that Lex Luthor can be like, he doesn't even look that jacked. He doesn't even look that good. I'm a 10. That guy's like a 7 at best.
But we do know that he actually got hella cut. We know that he's actually really jacked and big. A lot of people were complaining that, like, oh, he looks nothing like Henry Cavill. He looks smaller than Henry Cavill. David Cornsweet is actually taller and heavier than Henry Cavill. This version of Superman is actually physically more imposing than Henry was. The difference is that Henry was wearing that skin tight number, and then this is not that. So,
this is the most full circle nerd
it's
thing.
So weird
that nerds are into sports, and sports dudes just talk about other dudes' body. Oh, super jacked, can run a real fast. Nerds are like, we don't care about sports, but here we are dissecting this guy's body. Is he eating 6 meals a day? What is he on the rock routine? What's his meal routine?
Exactly. It's absolutely ridiculous. I've been watching just the Twitter sphere or the X sphere, whatever the hell we call it now. And just, it's like every other post is, this is amazing, or it goes to, this is absolutely trash. And it's coming from like the Snyder crew, the pro Snyder group, and then the anti Snyder group. They're just going back and forth, and it's legitimately funny.
Well, hopefully they tire themselves out so it doesn't ruin this movie when it comes out, because I'm going to let you know, people coming out of a T-ship makes me excited to see the movie.
Yeah, and that's not even just like, we know that there's more heroes. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be added in a different, maybe they film something else, but we know that Guy Gardner, Ryan Reynolds' Guy Gardner, is out here somewhere. We know that Isabella Mercad's Hot Girl. We got Metamorpho coming in here too. Like we have other heroes that are going to be present, including the engineer from the Authority. So we know that there's going to be a lot more characters. Just all we got right now was Mr. Terrific and Superman and the military.
How many more days of live shooting do they have?
I don't know. I legitimately wasn't paying attention to the shooting schedule, and I forgot they were even in Cleveland right now. So when I saw the set photos pop up, I'm like, oh, cool. It's happening. They're actually doing this. Hell yeah. One fun tidbit along with this is that we know that Metropolis is now actually stationed in Delaware. They actually firmly established that Metropolis is in Delaware.
This is amazing. Not even we don't even know where the Simpsons are. At least we finally know where Superman is.
Yeah. So with this and with these set photos, we saw the Daily Planet. We saw the old style photo that we showed last week of them building the Daily Planet doors, and then we saw them hang a bunch of flags, and one of the flags was the Delaware state flag. So now we know officially. We knew that James Gunn had been plotting a map of the DC universe. So his idea was always to not stamp one city over another city. He didn't want to have like New York is New York. Instead of like in the 70s, it was New York is Metropolis. We're just saying it's Metropolis. Or even in Batman Forever, where they're like, New York is Gotham. They're just like, they kept using the Statue of Liberty as like the new staple for whatever big city they wanted to do.
So that does mean that Gotham is most likely New York City in this universe.
No.
Though,
what it means is that just like in the comics,
you think it's Chicago?
No, in the comics, Gotham City was actually in New Jersey, and there was kind of like that joke about New Jersey. Just everyone from New York hates New Jersey for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's full of the mob. It's full of trash. It's garbage. Gotham City's full of the mob. It's dark and grungy. They're like, Gotham City in New Jersey makes total sense. So. But it's another one of those things where the Metropolis in this universe, it predates the. They actually had some like Metropolis dates on one of the flags, and they did indicate that Metropolis, as well as Gotham, do predate the establishment of America. So they were probably colonies.
Cool.
So Metropolis and Gotham being like the 15 colonies, not the 13 colonies. You know, like two major cities that established at the get-go.
Now, we're only seeing this because it's filming in a public place. Do we know, have they shot at like the farm yet? Or do you think that
Yes.
that might, they did, but like we don't know where that farm is because it's private property?
No, we actually saw a picture of it. We actually got some pictures of the new Kent farm not too long ago. And it was interesting because it definitely had some vibes of like Smallville and everything else. Because I mean, there was that joke in Smallville where they said that in Smallville, I was watching one of their podcasts when they said that it's ironic that the Smallville is supposed to take place in Kansas, and there's Canadian pine trees everywhere, and they made like a joke about it.
Sure.
But let me grab this photo. So this photo is actually part of the Kent farm. Let me grab it here because I didn't think you were going to bring it up, but I probably should have.
I didn't know that we could see farm pics.
So we actually have a kind of a grungy farm. So we obviously have the main farm. We got some trees. There was also another barn off to the side. So like they actually went full like this is
raise animals. What did they do on the farm? Because sometimes the farm looks like in the cartoon. Sometimes the farm looks like a multi-million-dollar like lots of fields and tractors, and then sometimes it looks like this. So what did they?
It was a corn farm.
Okay.
Yeah. So initially they had farmed like corn and wheat, and that was really their main deal. They had a couple cows, chickens, or whatever to provide them food, and it was mainly a produce farm.
Mm.
And instead of and the way they kind of hit it was that they had these big massive fields, and they would say that they had to hire on a bunch of farmhands, and they'd never hired on the farmhands. They just had Clark go out and do everything.
It's just Clark. Yeah. Do you think we get that scene? We get a fast scene of him picking corn?
I would love that. Like just legitimate. Like I gotta go do my chores, and then there's like at the end of a field, there's all the buckets, and just them filling up with the corn. Like that would be just all I need to see. Like, all right, yeah, this is Clark being Clark doing the farm shit.
So Clark is watching. No, they told him when he started showing. I guess he always had powers, right? Even when he was a baby, he had powers.
When he was a kid. Like there was in the comics, there was a point I think where Clark had a nightmare and broke his mom's hand when he was screaming as like an infant. So like they've always known he had powers. Like ever since, it wasn't like Superman 78 where toddler Clark picks up the truck. It was like, we found a baby. Oh, he just broke my hand. Like this baby's freakish part.
I wonder if they're going to give Superman a favorite band. So like Superman's watching Guns N' Roses and and Ma's like, hey, you got to go do your chores. He's like, does it really fast, comes back and is watching it. And then we cut to him singing Welcome to the Jungle in Metropolis.
I would legitimately love that. Like one thing that I don't think a lot of people acknowledge that he was raised in Kansas.
Right.
So he's
a big Garth Brooks fan. He loves Garth Brooks.
He loves country music. He probably loves classic rock. He probably has like a "Don't Tread on Me" sticker on his truck. You know, like he's probably like raised in the heartland of like the blue collar, and is like, I'm going to listen to White Snake and just like drive down the street. Like
he can have a "Let's Go Brandon" because I don't think Trump is set up in that universe the way he's set up in that universe. Yeah, good.
That is actually something that I would very much love DC to embrace for the first time, and not like is allow this universe to be separate 1,000%.
Sure.
If you want to say that Reagan was the last American politician that exists in this canon, that's fine because he was canon in the comics.
Sure.
But after Reagan, everyone has to be fictionalized.
Sure. Okay.
Like, because I hated when every time in like the CW, they did this a lot where they're like, the president is whatever made up president they have. But then on Legends of Tomorrow, they're like, oh, we got to go save Obama. Like, but Obama doesn't exist according to your own canon.
It's a nice man from Kenya named Obama. It's a different Obama. It has nothing to do with President Obama.
It was so many of those things that they did in that show where I'm like, your own canon is betraying you. Stop adding modern politics where it doesn't actually fit your canon. I very much like what Marvel did where they had like President, what was that guy's name? He was in Iron Man 3. He was the president. And then afterwards we had the guy from New Girl as the president. And now we have we have President Ross as the new president. So like we have a bunch of different white dudes as president
sure.
that are all unrelated to reality. So
does that president show up in this new Captain America movie? Do we see the president in that movie?
Yeah, it's Harrison Ford. It's General Ross. He's the president.
Okay.
Which is going to make it problematic because the president is also the Red Hulk and one of the bad guys of the film.
Listen, that's par for the course. He'll just do his own war crimes with his own two hands.
Exactly.
So, how much of the movie is done?
Most of it, actually. They're actually in their final stages of filming. The filming is supposed to wrap the end of next month, or just filming production of any kind is supposed to wrap in the next 4 to 5 weeks or so. They've done mostly everything. They're just going back and doing like the cleanups, getting out the extra shots that they needed, and all the outdoor shit that they couldn't do on a soundstage.
Is there any chance that this Superman gets introduced in the cartoon show for The Authority?
Well, that's not a thing yet. We don't know. The Authority is supposed to be a live action film. You're talking about Creature Commandos.
Yeah. Is there any chance that we see one of these characters in
100%.
that?
100%.
Okay.
100%. Because we do know that they've actually said behind the scenes that members of the Creature Commandos may be made reference in the Superman movie. And you may actually have some kind of on the nose overt connections here. But speaking of on the nose connections to the DCU, officially today, HBO moving forward with Lanterns. The two Green Lanterns, they officially announced it. The picture that they keep using is this one, and I don't for a second think that Jon Stewart's going to be a Yellow Lantern in the show. It's supposed to both be Green Lanterns, but they keep putting this picture out, so I don't know anymore. But the Green Lantern series is finally moving forward, and what we do know is that Chris Mundy from Ozark is going to be the showrunner for this 8-episode drama, which is going to be written by Damon Lindelof, known for Watchmen and Lost, and Eisner Award winner Tom King, the actual comic writer that has been doing Batman, Mr. Miracle, and the whole story of the Supergirl movie is based on his Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow DC comic run.
That Watchmen television series, Watchmen is so precious to so many people, and some people loved what Zack Snyder did. Some people didn't like it. And I remember when that show got announced being like, well, how are they going to even do that? That show was done so well. It had so much love and care for the world. If they can bring that over to a Lantern show, that's amazing. Also,
that was also Damon Lindelof.
Right.
What I loved about that show was that he took all the visual cues that Zack Snyder established,
yes,
but also tied it back to the comics. So you had the squids, you had all the stuff from the comics. They tried to make it as faithful to both canons as they could. I mean, obviously the Zack Snyder film changed the third act a bit, and they couldn't really do that for this story to exist. So they went off of the comic story, but they did a lot of visual representation from the comics, which was absolutely visuals from Zack. They based a lot of the look from Zack, which was fantastic.
It's also funny that of all those projects that they had mentioned that they want to work on, that they're doing Green Lanterns as one of the second or third projects, basically, like that we are going to get established very quickly what Green Lanterns can do.
Yeah, like right off the bat. So we were like, all right, so we have Creature Commandos and Peacemaker that's being... So again, Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, and Waller were all shows that were previously contracted, greenlit, and ready to go before the grand reboot. So it was cheaper to continue these projects and retool them into a new canon. So these were all the leftover projects. The new projects for the DCU that were truly DCU originals, we got Superman, we had Supergirl, who already got its director and is presumably starting to film at the end of this year. And now we've got Lanterns. So right off the bat, they're doing Superman, Supergirl, and 2 Green Lanterns.
Does Supergirl from House of Dragons show up in this Green Lantern show?
No, she shows up in the Superman movie, and then is going to be off-world for her movie. But what we do know is that this film, this show right off the bat, is going to be 8 episodes, and it's going to be it's going to be kind of like a murder mystery in a way. They said they're going to basically make it a little bit True Detective-y, with the 2 Green Lanterns doing some detective work, as they're space cops, but they're also having to figure out how to stop some crimes. So I'm very interested to see how this Green Lantern show with John and Hal, and they've already established that John is going to be the younger of the two, like the comics, and Hal is going to probably be in his 40s. And my fan cast, everyone always asks me who I want to play these Lanterns. I want everyone keeps saying that they want Jensen Ackles as Batman. I want him as Hal Jordan. I think Jensen Ackles as an older, gruffed, like, especially after seeing him as Soldier Boy in The Boys, I want to see him as Hal Jordan, especially because he can pull off Parallax Hal Jordan if he needs to. Like, he's got the chops to be like good guy Jordan and then the crazy bad Jordan.
And that's what they're setting up. By doing the older version, they're setting up the possibility of doing that, correct?
Yeah, possibly. I think they're setting up with a lot of stuff here, because we have the JSA, we've got the Justice League in its infancy, and we've also got the Authority. So I could very much see this world being very interesting and very set up in a very new way. They're hitting the ground running.
When do we start seeing all of this? Is the Penguin show going to be kind of the start, and then we see, even though Penguin is not related to this, it's going to get people excited for superhero stuff, specifically DC stuff. So what does that rollout look like?
So the rollout is actually starting at the end of this year, which is pretty great. We have Penguin starting in September, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, September. And with the big, we've got, actually technically we have Batman the Caped Crusader dropping in August on Amazon. And coincidentally, they're putting out the first trailer tomorrow. The show comes out August 1st on Amazon Prime, and they're dropping all 10 episodes in one hit, which...
How did Amazon get the right? They've made like 3 Batman. They made the Batman cartoon over Christmas. Is this just like...
These were actually the leftovers, the stuff that that the studio didn't really want to invest time into. And they're like, we've already gone far enough to say, do you just want to finish it and buy it? And that's what they did.
If you are signing up for HBO to watch any of these future programs, you should also watch the show The Leftovers. It's an amazing television show. It's a very dark show.
So what's interesting about all these new projects, and I want to before we go into the big timeline of everything, Lanterns, Harry Potter, and Welcome to Derry are the three big shows that HBO is putting out, and they've actually dropped the Max Originals branding off it, and now they're going straight HBO branding. They're going back to the HBO branding. They're not killing the Max anything, but they know that HBO is a much stronger name than Max was.
What's the Derry show?
Welcome to Derry.
Yeah.
This is the reason why the Batman the Brave and the Bold hasn't moved forward much, is because Andy Muschietti is filming his It prequel show, Welcome to Derry.
Wow.
And they even confirmed, they actually recently confirmed that the actor himself who played Pennywise is coming in the show. So everything that we wanted from an It prequel show is going to have everything in it. So let's do it. I'm ready.
What a huge roster. What huge undertakings. That I mean, I can't believe that no new Harry Potter has been set up, and that instead of doing something after all of this, we're just going to do Harry Potter again. And I'm totally here for it, but it blows my mind that J.K. Rowling has made such a mess of herself that they don't want to even go to that well for new ideas.
Well, no, she's fully on board with the new show. Like
I'm sure she is.
No, I mean, like, she's on like the writing staff with them. Like, she's straight up involved in every step of the way. So what I've always said this, and we've established this before. If you want a proper adaptation of any book series, you got to make it a series. You can't do it as film.
So much in that book series that those movies never touched on that you're going to be able to flush out in the TV show.
And that's kind of what they're doing here. Was that they're kind of like how Game of Thrones first started, where the idea was that each season was a book. They're doing that actually. So like season 1 of Harry Potter will be the Philosopher's Stone or the Sorcerer's Stone, whatever version they call it. I think about this time, I think we should just call it the Philosopher's Stone.
It's America.
Second season.
It's got to be Sorcerer's Stone. Sure, Chamber of Secrets.
Third season, like they just do it like that, and then probably the last season will be like, this is all of the Deathly Hallows. Like, we're just gonna go nuts with it. But we have a lot of stuff coming down the woodwork, and with the roster of it, we're starting with these films, kind of just like right off the bat. We're going straight into we have the Batman animated show, then we're jumping into the Penguin show, then at the end of this year we've got Creature Commandos, then starting in next year we've got Peacemaker season 2/season reboot, and then we've got Superman, then we're going to have Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, then we're going to have the Lantern show, and then we're going to jump into the third year where we have the Batman Part 2, possibly even Batman the Brave and the Bold, and whatever other projects they announce over the next 6 months.
What a time to be alive. What an amazing, what a great roadmap. I wonder of these things, which will be the ones people are excited for. Because I do wonder that if this is too much time in between all of that, even though I know it's only a year, it does feel like the writer's strike just pushed so much of this so far back.
Yes and no. And that's actually the trickiest. That was actually the most interesting part of this whole thing, was James Gunn was able to get as much of everything done before the strike kicked into effect. So he was still able to do all of his pre-production. So none of the DCU actually has been affected by the writer's strike. The Batman Part 2 100% was derailed by the writer's strike. But according to Andy Serkis, aka Alfred, he confirmed just the other day that the planned script is going to be turned in by the end of this year, and they are actually aiming for an early 2025, beginning of the year, Q1 2025 filming. So They're actually back on track. So I'm all for it. Batman Part 2 could be great. Hopefully we find out some confirmed anything on who the villain is, because at one point we've heard Mr. Freeze, we've heard Hush, we've heard the Court of Owls, we've heard Clayface. There's so many characters that have been rumored to be in this. I'm just ready to see this damn film.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to go. I feel like they're not shying away from the Fantastic Batman stuff. The first movie was very grounded. I wonder if we see something along that line, or maybe we bridge the gap between the two.
I would love it if they bridged the gap a little bit. I would love it if they got weird with it, like kind of like at the end of Batman Begins, where Gordon was like, "What about escalation?" I want to see the escalation into the weird. I don't want to see Batman say, "Holy crap, I'm not ready for this weirdness." I want him to face up against like a metahuman and then realize he has to like kind of up his game a little bit.
I wonder, with this slate of James Gunn approved, his eyes on all of this stuff, he's overseeing the story. I wonder how Marvel's going to respond. We kind of have an idea that they're redoing everything, but I wonder if they do what they're doing in a nutshell, or if it will be influenced by these other shows that are going on.
I'm sure it will be. I mean, as we know that I've had a big issue with Marvel and its injection of humor into everything. And you can trace all of that back to James Gunn's work on the first Guardians of the Galaxy. And I will fight to the end saying that James Gunn has been the only person at Marvel who got humor done correctly. He, with all 3 Guardians of the Galaxy films, the humor was actually fluid, somewhat necessary, and it fit. But everything else they tried to do, when they tried to make Doctor Strange funny or try to do this funny, it never worked. And outside of the right director doing the right humor, Marvel has always been really good when it takes itself seriously. Infinity War and Endgame were probably the best things that they've done in a very long time, and those movies were not comedies.
So, it's so funny that you say that. You're right. There hasn't been a serious Marvel movie in a long time.
Yeah.
And they tried to make the Secret Invasion show serious, but it was so awful. I don't think I would have loved for something to make that show not feel so awful.
They squandered that whole show. Like, there were so many chances that they could have.
They wasted Samuel L. Jackson. I can't believe that. Like, they killed the girl from How I Met Your Mother. Like, they just like did like all of these well-established characters. They're like, we don't know what to do with any of these people.
Yeah. And then they established that there's now this new scroll out there, the definitive Super Scroll.
Baby
that still is weird to me when she got like the jacked arm with the little hand and the little shoulder. Like, it's my strong arm.
It's my strong arm. Grab my hand.
This character is now literally the strongest entity in the Marvel universe, and she just flew off into the sunset. Like, we don't know what's gonna. If that character never comes back, I'm gonna say that this is Marvel's biggest plot hole. Like, this character can fight Kang and the Kang army single-handedly and just end the Secret Wars by herself. But they're not going to do that because it doesn't. I was
going to say, maybe that's exactly what they should do. Who knows?
Just bring her into it. Be like, by the way, we have a Kang. Like, we have a Super Scroll. Like,
I mean, is this whole reboot of the Marvel, like this mini reboot that's happening is basically Deadpool 3? Like, whatever this introduces is going to be the path forward?
It's unclear. But what the big rumor behind the scenes is that moving forward, Marvel is going to somewhat reboot the Marvel universe into their X-Men universe so that the mutants and superheroes are firmly established together.
And that's how you get what's his name back as Iron Man.
That's how you get anyone back as Iron Man. Like, they're going to reboot and recast so many characters, and it's not going to matter because ironically, so when we were kids, and I point this out because this is something that a lot of people who grew up on the MCU don't realize. Captain America and Iron Man were like the weak tier Marvel characters. Nobody cared about them. When we were younger, the big characters was Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, the X-Men, and then everyone else fell on the wayside.
I mean, X-Men was the thing. It was the thing we always wanted more of that I felt like we didn't get a lot of. I feel like Iron Man I loved in all the video games. I loved him in all the Capcom games and stuff like that. But you're right. They were not like when we would run around the backyard, I was playing Marvel characters. I wasn't playing Captain America.
Yeah, we were never Captain America and Iron Man. It was like, I'm Spider-Man. No, I'm the other Spider-Man. It was like, I think that when we were kids, it was you wanted to be Spider-Man and I wanted to be Scarlet Spider. That was our way of dealing with the fact that we both wanted to be Spider-Man.
Listen, there's enough Spider-Mans for everybody. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, there's a whole Spider-Verse of them out there. On another Spider-Verse note, Sony is moving forward with a live-action Miles Morales, and it's unclear where the character is going to be introduced. But everyone who bitched and moaned saying Sony shouldn't do this, I like to point out that when Sony does Spider-Man, they do it well.
I think this is where they bring in Andrew Garfield. I don't think. I think that Tom Holland. I don't know if he wants to come back. I think he's a standalone guy. I think you just focus your movie on him. But this would be a great way to get Andrew Garfield back in the mix and have him be fun and the teacher guy and teaching the new guy. And you can kill him if you want to,
because they do that in the comics where Miles as Peter died. So let's do it. Let's bring. If Andrew doesn't want to come back for a whole bunch, bring in Andrew Garfield. Have him bite the bullet, have young Miles take up the mantle, and then introduce the Spider-Verse, and then bring Miles out of that canon into the MCU. And then
I also like that idea more than bringing Tobey Maguire.
I'd like to point out when people were like, "Oh, Sony's going to mess up Miles." Sony's done Miles correctly already on 2 animated films.
Yeah, those movies are fantastic.
And I also like to point out the 5 previous Spider-Man films, pre-MCU Spider-Man, are better than all of the MCU Spider-Man movies. Even Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2 are the weaker of all of those films. They're still better than Far From Home and Homecoming.
I agree. Listen, I'm only saying this to you. Make sure no one else hears this, okay?
I won't tell anyone.
I don't think that they're bad movies. I think they're fun movies, but they're just like one-off Spider-Man movies. They're not anything amazing. The first movie just has Iron Man in it. The second movie was like a fun, weird, like Euro trip movie. It wasn't until that third movie that it like really gained a lot of weight and felt like, wow, this is something.
Yeah, Spider-Man actually became Spider-Man at the end of his trilogy.
Yeah, and most of the other stuff we like about Tom Holland as Spider-Man is him being the comic relief in the serious movies. In the serious movies, he was the one guy we were happy to like be funny.
Because that's his job. Spider-Man's job is to be sarcastic and witty.
Was the fastest guy in the room.
Yeah, that was actually the big joke. And it was one of the things that we loved about the comics was that one comic, I think we were in high school, where they explained that because Spider-Man's spider sense slows down time, he has enough time to think of a witty comeback for everything, which they explained it in canon as his spider sense gave him time to think about better material.
Yeah, he could like work on his jokes. That's why he's got the best jokes.
Yeah. So I don't know. DC is in a great spot and we're coming out the fence. I for one think that Superman's costume, I don't care for the bagginess to it, but I 100% think they're going to clean it up in post, which is fine by me. I know you like the collar. I am more happy about the fact that there's a yellow S on the back of his cape. Like that's the biggest win for me. So I'm
Thank
excited.
you, Just Jared, for getting those hot pics and putting them on the internet.
Yeah, that's my way of getting around to like take the photos down. I got them from Just Jared's website.
Yeah, go send him a cease and desist letter.
Yeah. But they're realistically though, they are from his site, so he did a great job getting all those photos. Very clean photos. So on that note, I'm pretty excited about the future of all this stuff. Spider-Man's looking like it's going to be good. Superman's looking like it's going to be good. We got a new Batman cartoon around the corner. We've got the Joker 2 coming out in a few months. Like I'm excited for all those things. I wonder what will rival those things. And I am excited to watch those things and then come back here and talk about it with all of you here at the Culture Nerd Podcast. Well, on that note, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. If you want to help us keep the lights on, if you want to help support the channel, head over to the patreon.com/theculturednerd. And if you're sitting at home, if you're watching this on your TV, which you should be, because we're not doing this live, so you all should be sitting at home, go ahead, scan that QR code, scan that, head over to the links, check us out on all the socials, like, comment, subscribe on this channel, as well as any of our socials. On Instagram, we just started a brand new broadcast channel. So if you want to get the news as soon as I have it, go ahead, join that channel. Avoid the ridiculous nature of the Instagram algorithm and supersede that algorithm and just go straight into the Instagram broadcast channels, because that's the way of the future, apparently, with Instagram, I guess. But I guess. I don't know what they're doing anymore. Every day they do something new and they make the app weirder. It's like Instagram had a chance to capitalize on Twitter's steady decline, and Threads isn't it, and Instagram is being weird now, and Facebook really is. I don't know. Social media is falling apart. It's all crazy now, but we're on all of it. So follow us there, talk to us there, and we'll engage with you. as much as we can. But on that note, thank you all for joining us. I have been your host, Taylor Murphy. Michael Santel has always been here and will always be here. And we will see you next time.
I'm a ghost boy. I haunt the internet. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.